Hi there, and welcome to the latest episode of Pat's Procrastination, brought to you by the Pat's Propaganda YouTube channel. Hey folks, please do not forget to be subscribing to said YouTube channel so that you do not miss an episode of this crazy show. And here we are, episode 67, also celebrating our 2-year anniversary or our 2-year birthday. Pat's Procrastination is now 2 years old. We're in the terrible twos, folks. But we have been since the beginning, really, if you can tell how much we argue. But anyway, I am Clazzy Clare. He is Chudders. Chudders, how are things with you?
Does that sum up the weekend pretty well? So
Wow,
you just
really?
close the show now?
2 years old. This is it. You are going to act like a 2-year-old.
I should have. I feel like I'm the meme of Bill looking very grumpy, I think, in his torn shirt with the party hat and happy birthday, where he's just glum face. Happy birthday, Claire.
Season 1, week 1, game 1. Really?
Go on, right. We were going to argue as to you'd want to say, go on, Ben, you start. You've got all the grumpy things to say, but I'm going to say no. You start, Claire, because I think Pats fans will have been very cross, very disappointed on Sunday. Monday, possibly avoided headlines. Tuesday, started to catch up on podcasts and media, maybe trying to look ahead a bit and trying to find the positive side. So, Claire, please go fill us in on all the positives that you've seen.
On this Wednesday, the 10th of September, almost, just about. Now, I'd like to preface this with, if you want to be grumpy, you can be grumpy. I'm not saying to you, you shouldn't be grumpy. I don't think blowing a raspberry is really necessary, but, you do you. Everybody deals with it in their own way. Everybody sees it as they want, and everybody has their own opinion. And as I recently put in my shameless plug here, my recent article on patspropaganda.com, please do go and check that out, folks, because, as everybody does, we need all the clicks that we can get. It's season 1, week 1, game 1 for this establishment, because this is the first game of the first season under Mike Vrabel with Josh McDaniels and Drake May. And it didn't look pretty, but I'm going to shamelessly quote myself now. Have you ever been out on a first date with someone and it didn't go great, but there was something there, so you went back again? And I did put in my article that I'm sure some people are married by now that this happened to. I'm sure there's plenty of people that didn't, but still, we won't go there. It's just a case of, I get the frustration. It wasn't a great game. It wasn't so bad first half, second half, last 2 quarters. But it is season 1, week 1, game 1. Just maybe hit the brakes a little bit on the, the sky is falling. The sky is falling. Really? Just maybe a little bit temperate. But if you want to go running around like a headless chicken saying the sky is falling, you do you, folks. That isn't what I'm here to tell you. I think there's stuff there. There's plenty there. I have plenty of notes of what was there. I was listening to, as I often do on a show day morning, I catch up with TC and Phil Perry because they're 2 of my faves. And they had plenty to say that sort of puts it into perspective in regards to Drake May. And one thing that TC said was, explanations aren't an excuse. Because I'll say a few things about Drake May and you'll give it the same face that you give it always, that curmudgeon-y face that you pull at me far too often, and poo-poo it and say I'm naive and things like this. But these things are facts. He's like 22. He's raw. He had 26 games in college. And unlike your most favoritist quarterback in the league, Jaden Daniels, he entered with 55. I mean, come on, the kid hasn't got as much experience. And yeah, he went out there and he kind of looked like it, especially for the second half. The interceptions really, seem to seriously throw off the momentum, as it did me. Just there you go. I don't know. His rookie year wasn't ideal. You put him out with like the worst O-line in the NFL in 2024, and no real weapons, as people like to say. He is a smart and strong kid. We know that he can do it. He just needs it putting together. And I just think killing somebody after the very first attempt, you can't even count preseason in a respect because they don't run it quite the same way. And you know, he wasn't out there for a load of preseason anyway. For me personally, my opinion, my outlook of it is, I am very much season 1, week 1, game 1. But I won't shame anybody for, well, I won't shame anybody anyway, but for not agreeing or not seeing it like that and wanting to be negative. It's just, it feels like that's a choice that you make because we're so early now, halfway through the season, and we're still seeing all of this. Okay, there's concerns, but you've still got to look at it as it's the beginning of something. We're literally taking the first few steps in this case, and bear in mind we're taking the first few steps with a really good, experienced NFL head coach for a change. We've actually got an OC who knows what an OC should do and can do. An OC that's experienced enough to know and learn and develop and grow within the team, with the quarterback, that what he's capable of doing and what he should and shouldn't be putting on his plate. So they've got a lot there. It just needs to click together. And I mean, have you ever put a piece of IKEA furniture, sorry, no shout out, and other brands are available kind of thing, piece of IKEA furniture together perfectly the first time? The very first time? You would be like, yeah, me, because you're just like the best that there ever was, aren't you, dearie? So yeah, but you see my point. No, just go and be negative then while I drink my tea.
So, well, I'll try and respond to some of your points there.
Don't bother. Just say what you want to say.
Season 1, episode 1 of the Mike Vrabel show that we're on, the way you're seeing this, I agree with that sentiment. I think the problem that everyone has is that season 1, week 1, looks exactly the same as, I don't know what you want to call this, then the last season, but the season before that. Exactly, yeah, it does.
Really? Well,
pretty much did. It pretty much did.
The problem is here that the problem that we've got here, apologies for interrupting you, is every positive point that I will give you, you will counteract with an explanation, an excuse, and something else. We know this because we've been doing it for now 2 years, folks. So that's why I said you should just put out your opinions of it instead of counteracting my points, because you've always got an answer for what I want to say that's positive.
But you're answering Pat's World. You're responding to Pat's World with your statements. So I'm responding to you on behalf of Pat's World.
No, oh, okay.
Well, no, maybe not all of Pat's World, but the majority of Pat's World that I represent. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So you also you had a good phrase there of the sky is falling or the sky's not falling, as your opinion, and I'd agree with that. I think the problem is it's not so much that the sky is falling, because we weren't up high and we've fallen down. It's more of the sky fell a couple of years ago and has been for the past 2 years. We were hoping that this year the sky was going to be rising. Or we're getting into a weird analogy now. The clouds are rising. I don't know. But it's less that the sky is falling now. It's more that we thought the sky was about to rise up and we're going to get nice blue skies. And it turned out we didn't. We just got the same pretty rubbish football that we've seen the past few years.
So you don't, sorry to interrupt you, but because I have a question for that point, you don't feel that some of the first half was the first 2 quarters, however you want to, enunciate it, were better.
I think the second quarter was very good. Basically, when the Pats scored their points.
That's all my point is that.
The trouble is that's only a couple of drives. It was only about 3 drives, and they only scored on 2 of them. That's the problem. When we look at a whole game, I think we'd all admit it was rubbish. You're right. We can look at specific plays, specific drives, very short periods of time, and go, "Well, that wasn't too bad. That was good." Yeah, that's a positive. But when we look at the majority of the work, it was poor. the run game was very poor.
Yes. Very quickly to answer.
Go for it.
I'm not saying to you, oh, it was all sunshine and rainbows and it was amazing. I hope you realise I am not saying that.
Yes.
I am just saying that to reserve the concerns a little bit. You don't have to if you don't want to. Of course. I started the show by saying I'm not trying to tell anybody how to fan. These are just my opinions that we put out, because we put out my opinions and we put out your opinions, and that's what makes the show. And people want to watch, people want to watch. If they don't want to watch, they don't want to watch. I'm not trying to say being down on it is wrong. It just feels like give yourself a chance. It's soon. It's early, sorry.
It is, but you and I both sat here last week predicting wins because we thought things are going to be a lot better. Yeah. We both had expectations. We were going to beat the Raiders at home. And we're both in our right to be disappointed that did not happen. And to be honest, it didn't really ever look like it was going to happen in that game. And that's what's most disappointing. I think an element that really compounds it and makes it feel like an even worse loss than possibly it is that you're playing a team that, again, was in basically the same position as you 8 months ago. They changed their coach. They went 4-13. They've got a quarterback who they're not really sure whether he's the future or not yet. And they signed an early running back to try and focus on that element of the game. Like, there's a lot of similarities you could draw between the situations the Pats and the Raiders were in last season and coming out of this weekend. And the Raiders were not phenomenal. I don't suddenly think they're necessarily a playoff team and going on to do anything big, but they came out full guns blazing, played pretty well, and relatively comfortably beat you at home. Go for it. Claire question. Lady at the front.
Say, sir, I have a question. No, I'd be sitting at the back. I promise you that. I do have a small pushback just to say, yeah, but their quarterback is much more experienced than ours.
He is, but he's at best a middling of the road quarterback.
Yeah, but he's got more under his belt than ours has. That was just one point. And the running back that you're talking about, didn't he go in the first round?
He did.
So you're pitting talent that's from there against running back talent that's from there, sort of thing. You're not comparing oranges and oranges. You're comparing apples and oranges, sort of thing. No, I'm not saying you are wrong. I'm just trying to give a little bit of the other side of it, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. If I sat here and went, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Oh, they suck. Yeah, you're right. Wouldn't be much of a show, would it really? And it wouldn't be very interesting. And it would be false as well. So, and we're not about being fake on here.
So, you're right. I mean, if you want to touch on the running game bit, I think that was more about the O-line.
No, not really.
Our O-line wasn't necessarily the reason we lost, but they also could not be the reason we won. The protection, particularly in the second half, wasn't great. They couldn't get the running game going at all.
I have a stat. Can I throw a stat?
Go for it. Please throw some stats around.
According to Phil Perry, the protection from the O-line, they had a 30% pressure rate, which is a 10% improvement for the whole of 2024. So we are on the incline. Don't spit your tea out.
But we literally had, I think, the worst O-line possible last season. You even said that a minute ago, I think. We had the worst O-line.
Apparently, yeah.
Last season.
Apparently we did.
Okay. I would like to think we all hoped that would be more than 10% better this year.
Yeah, but hold on. 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%. In a few games, look where you could be. Don't you want that?
I want that.
Tell us what you want.
I want that, but I'm not entirely sure that's exactly how it's going to play. If we improve 10% every single week, then yeah, my gosh, we'll be phenomenal by the end of the year. The problem is we've had 6 months of reshuffling the pack, getting new players in, getting new coaches in, and we thought we'd be more than 10% better by now.
That's only
I
the
don't
O-line,
think
though,
we
to
sat
be
here
honest.
6 months ago, 8 months ago, thinking, gosh, I hope by week one, that was an awful season. We hate that season. Gosh, I hope by week one we're 10% better than that. I think we all hoped and thought it'd be more than 10%.
But excuse me, we've got rookies. Rookies are going to rookie. Our whole left side was rookies. Is rookies. I mean,
Claire, you thought we'd be more than 10% better. You predicted a win this time last week. You thought we'd be. You know how bad we were last year. You thought we would be more than 10% better.
Why do I feel like I'm getting told off now? Yeah.
Mm.
I've got homework to do now.
You have. So, right, what were the positive aspects that you saw? Okay, should we move on to the bads? So,
no, I just
Hunter Henry. I thought he was all right. Go on.
I have May did have a lot of good throws. The one to Hunter Henry at the sideline, May throws before Hunter turns his head, so he anticipates, and the back shoulder to Booty. May got hit as he was throwing. See, it's too early in the morning. I have to read my notes. May got hit as he was throwing the ball, impossibly to the right place in that interception. I think May's got the stuffs. It's just they need to find the right formula. But McDaniel, for me personally, I then feel like, oh, well, McDaniels knows his stuff. I feel like he can sort it out, sort of thing. It's just you've got to give it a little bit of time and patience. That's all. What they do in the preseason, what they do training, is so much different to what then has to go out on the field and how everything reacts to it. So yeah, and Hunter Henry was his binky again. Yeah, I love that. I love the quarterback Titan connection. You know this. I've got to say, just going over to the dark side, the Raiders do have some really good tight ends. It's not fair. Okay, I'm back over here.
Keishon Butte, he had a good game.
He's working really
looked
hard.
Very good.
Yeah, I think he needs the player of the day or something. Are you still doing that?
Underrated player of the day, yeah.
Thank you. I don't know if underrated would really be fair because I don't know if he's underrated.
That's the whole point. That's why it's underrated player of the day, because there'll be everyone out there saying who was the player of the day. So the point was not to necessarily pick the player of the day that everyone thinks is the player of the day. It's to pick an underrated person who I thought had a good game. But go on, keep going.
I should be sent home early from school now because obviously I'm just not doing very well today. Do you really want to pick out all the bads? Can we just go?
Well, we probably can't. We probably don't have time to pick all of them out before the Patriots kick off against the Dolphins this weekend. But
yeah,
in general, it was pretty much all of it. Like I said, the O-line wasn't awful. I think it was better than last year, as you've said, 10% better than last year. But there's a lot of room for
in the lovely Phil Perry here.
Lovely Phil Perry, but he's
lovely.
He's lovely. But there's a lot of room for improvement there, to be honest, in pass protection and particularly in the run game.
Correct.
Because the run game was not massively effective, particularly in the second half. It was non-existent. Drake May making some throws. He made some throws. He didn't have a good game. I'm sorry.
No,
he didn't have a good game.
No, there's no need to apologize. I agree.
Excellent. We're agreeing on that. So I think offense-wise, I've seen a lot of commentary around is McDaniels giving the full playbook yet? Did we leave a lot in the shed? And possibly that's true. But I do think that offense still can improve the play calling. The one thing that keeps sticking in my mind is that obviously Josh coached so long with Brady, and Brady was, this is a compliment, he was a robot. He was precision. Josh would call a play, and that's what he'd hit. Like he would hit that tight, I don't know, slant to Edelman or the deep ball to Moss. It was just precision. Short little passes. We're hitting the gap. Bang, done. And it was reading very well. And I feel like that's maybe not Drake May's game. He needs to play a bit more free, a bit more loose. And I don't think he's being able to do that. Now, that's not to say if he did that, he would be successful. And perhaps he needs to become more of that player. And that's what will come with time, is learning to read the defenses better. The arm being a bit more accurate. There was some passes that flew over the heads. He was lucky not to be picked off a couple more times, to be honest. Maybe that's the way it's got to come. But I just feel like at the moment it's not. It's yet to click. I'm not going to say it's not clicking. It's never going to click, but it's yet to click.
I think Evan said on PU that they're still too developing to be a drop back passing team like the Bengals. The O-line receivers and quarterback are still growing, are still developing too much. Obviously, yeah, the run game struggled a lot, but in regards to how much he may had to drop back, I think they said on PU there's no other quarterback that could sustain that other than Brady anyway. You look at the whole of the NFL, and I'm pretty sure it was PU that said that very thing. There's no other quarterback. There's no quarterback in the league that could put up and be successful in that sort of situation. So, take that as it is. You can't look at it
kind
as
of what I'm
they
saying.
had Brady, because
no, but that's kind of what I'm saying is I don't want Josh to think he's got to run Brady's offense, and we're going to run the Brady offense. We just need to find the Brady. What I'm hoping, Josh, is he'll change far more to fit what will fit with May better. Is kind of what I'm saying.
I can't imagine that they would sit back and just cross their fingers that he molds into a Brady in that respect. I mean, I know we'd all love him to be a Brady, of course. I don't mean it like that, but I can't imagine these grown-ass men in this industry of multi-million/billion would just be like, oh, let's just carry on as it is and just hope that he turns out like that a bit.
No, but I think you had under Belichick, when Brady left, I think Belichick's philosophy was, well, we're going to play exactly the same way. We can just plug and play any quarterback into this way,
but this
and we'll be successful. No, I agree. But I'm trying to explain that I think there was that philosophy in New England for a while of almost an arrogance of we can play the way we're going to play. We're going to be successful. We're just going to plug in a quarterback, and it clearly didn't work. And I hope that's not what's happening now. And going back to Josh's system, and Josh is tailoring it to suit May's skill set, to suit this receiver's skill set. We like to harp on to something that you're rightly pointing out. We don't have a Gronk, so we can't be looking. I think Henry had a great game at tight end, but he isn't Gronk, and so we need to tailor that game to what suits the players that we do have. And I hope we see a little bit more of that, because I don't think that's quite there yet. Right. Should we move on to defense then?
Yeah. Oh, are we moving on to the Finns?
We can do in a minute.
Okay,
but
move on to defense.
What did what did you think from the defensive performance?
Well, the one point was when I was making my game notes. All my game notes were on the defense. Now, obviously, that's not going to reflect great on the offense, but still. But there was good and bad. I'd make a point of sort of like Alex Austin was on good coverage, and then Marcus Jones on good coverage to stop the catch. But then it'd be something would go wrong. Yeah, it inconsistency.
One step forward, one step back.
Yeah, but I think again patience comes into it, and this is a team that they've been taking pieces in and out as well. You didn't have Gonzalez. You almost did, and then you didn't because he got injured in training camp. And then they've sort of brought in and got rid of some pieces on defense as well. I think they've recently just let another guy go. I keep losing track because the names keep changing. But I'm wondering if some of the inconsistency on the defense is literally them still figuring out who works best where and everything. So it just feels like, okay, they've got some really good defensive players. We know that. You can't deny that some of the names on this roster are really good on defense. It's just a case of, let's just see. They need to put it together quickly, because you can't have a defense struggling that, particularly because it doesn't have that many rookies in its sort of situation. I think it's just a case of there was some good, there was bad. Like you said, one step forward, one step back. We'll get to even it out quickly so that we're just progressing forward, because there was some really good plays, but then there were some situations, in my opinion anyway.
Yeah, I'd agree. I had greater hopes for a front four of sort of Landry, White, or Chase on, depending on the package, I guess. Barmore and Williams, as to what they'd be able to achieve just as a front four, the pressure they'd be able to get, the run stopping they'd be able to get just as a front four, being supplemented by some edge rushers at times or some blitz packages. But I just thought, as a front four, that's going to be a lot stronger, a lot more pressure, a lot tighter than we've seen previous years. Generally, I don't think that happened. Now, the Pats did get, obviously, Landry got 2-3 sacks, I think, in the end. 2.5 sacks he was attributed with.
Okay.
But that was more on scheme because they sent the house in those packages than it was individual sort of brilliance, beating a tackle or inside with a guard and finding the gap and dominating on it. Like, okay, what's your question?
No, I was going to say it was 5, but that was 5 tackles. You're right, 2.5 sacks. I had a question, actually, but please carry on talking about it. But I've got loads of questions for you, and we're so going to run out of time. Because you're talking about the defense, I have it on a post-it note. Do you have concerns over Keon White?
I don't think he's wanted. I've got a feeling that Vrabel, he's too much of a tweener. He's probably not big enough to play inside, and he's maybe not fast enough to be effective outside. And he can kind of play both positions, but neither position at a really high level. And I've got a feeling that Vrabel's just not sure what to do with him, and isn't that high on him. And I don't think he's going to be as effective or as destructive as we hoped and thought he might have been when we signed him last year in the draft.
So you're a bit more of a defense guy, in all fairness, than I am. So that's why I wanted to ask your opinion. He had 1 tackle for 1 assist, played 29 defensive snaps and 9 special team snaps, just in case anybody wanted any of the stats. Not that that's what we're here for. But it was just, he seems to be one of those talking points of expectation was more. And is it fair? Are our expectations fair on him, or is he just really not meeting the milestone that he should, meeting his
potential?
Potential. Thank you. That was the word I was struggling for.
I think it's obviously been talked about a lot how bad previous drafts were.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate we're going on 1 game, but you got to look at the young talent that the Pats have, and probably the marquee names sort of still on the roster, still active on the roster in that are on defense, probably White. On offense, it's probably May, and I mean, that's about it really, because the receivers are nowhere to be seen. Polk and Baker, obviously. So
won't that push back on Boutte and Douglas?
Yeah, but, okay. That's fair. But the point I was going to say is, how many of them have actually developed? How many of them have kicked on? Like you say, you can have a first season and you don't expect everyone to necessarily hit the ground running, be Pro Bowl players after 1 season. Okay. By the end of the season, you hope that they've really secured their way in the league. They know what's happening. And year 2, everyone says the year 2 jump. There wasn't really anyone. Boutte, like you say, Boutte, he had a good game.
Yeah.
I think the honest answer is May. We're still looking for that jump. The player we've seen so far is good. We still all have hope. We still have our expectations. We have promise. We have fingers crossed, but we still haven't seen it. We haven't seen the player we want to see. And I think on the defensive side, you could apply the same to White, Keon White. Right. We are. No, well, the last thing to say before we move to the Finns, I think, is special teams and Borigalis missing that kick kind of cost you, because it meant when we went for the final drive and not the final drive, but the penultimate drive, and we got a field goal before our onside kick, we had to go for the field goal. We couldn't keep going on fourth down. If he'd have made that kick, we would have been a touchdown behind, and you'd have kept going on that drive. That could have been still a drive to tie it up rather than down 2 scores.
I do love how you guys that aren't big into special teams say, "Oh, you can get a kicker anywhere. You can just pick one up off the parking lot and this, that, and the other." And actually, but then you'll blame them for losing us the whole game.
I'm not saying he lost us the whole game. I'm saying his miss put us in a different position at the end of the game that removed the opportunity to be going for a tie, let alone even a win. I'd also say Barringer's punting was awful. He did not kick well either. And you're not going to fight me on that, but you don't want to admit it either.
I'm not saying anything.
Right, so let's move on to the Finns then, Claire. What's your thoughts?
Well, they had a pretty poor game against the Colts. I was trying to do some research on this because I didn't see the game. So I was I saw bits of the game, actually, to be fair. So I was looking into statistics and things like that. And I went on to the Finsider website. So I can quote. And I read that their good for the game was that the Pats and Jets lost as well, so that the Finns are the only 0-1 team in the division. That was the only good thing they had, which I thought was, I'm sorry, as a Patriots fan, that's amazing. I thought you might find that more amusing. Anyway, Jones made a mockery of the Finns defense. He did 22 on 29 for 272 yards. Tua was a turnover machine, and they gave up close to 160 yards rushing to the Colts. Sorry. So when you look at this, you look at that and you look at that sheet, you've got to sort of say, they're going to have to beat the Finns. They can't not beat the Finns. I mean, their cornerbacks are struggling. I understand that they've had out with injury. Their top tight end, Waller, is questionable. So don't get me wrong, I don't like injuries on any players. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it has happened. And I don't, the one thing that my point I'm trying to make is I'm stumbling over is the one thing that the Pats defense had issues with was the Raiders tight ends. I don't foresee, I probably shouldn't say this, but I don't think that the tight ends that the Finns have got are anywhere near up to the scratch of Bowers and Mayer. So the two things that had issue in the game that we've just played, that the Pats have just played, maybe won't really be on the table for this matchup against the Finns.
It's fair. I'd say that's fair. You're not wrong. You're coming across much better receivers though than you did. So if we don't have Gonzo again, how our secondary is going to match up against Waddle and Hill?
Yeah, but you've also got a quarterback that is a turnover machine, apparently.
He was in that game.
You can only have it doesn't matter how good your receivers are if your quarterback can't throw to them.
Which team are we talking about here?
Okay, well, what are your points then? I have given some.
So right. So what's your prediction? What's your prediction? My
prediction is Patriots 23, Finns 6.
6. Wow. And is that 2 field goals or is that going for an extra point on a touchdown?
Yeah, it was either a touchdown and no extra point or 2 field goals.
Wow.
You decide.
Okay. So the Finns did not play well at the weekend. They
only ran for 78 yards.
Yeah,
and their top receivers only had 8 catches for 70 yards. So
Yeah, no, they had a poor game. And not in any way defending that. If you want to go off the Pats this week or last week's performance versus the Finns last week's performance, the Pats probably did slightly better because the Pats had a pretty damn good quarter in there where the Finns didn't. They were pretty much blown out.
Come on, if the Pats play the exact same game that they've just played, which would be terrible, and the Finns played the exact same game that they've just played, which would be terrible for Finns fans, the Pats are coming out on top. Please, come on. You can't be that curmudgeon-y.
Yeah, but we all know they're not going to do that, though. Hopefully the Pats are going to be 10% better and Claire will be happy.
Oh, here we go. You need to hurry up now with all your jibs and
so
what's your prediction then, mister?
I don't think the Finns are going to do much this year. I don't think they're going to make the postseason. I don't think they're going to be. I think they're on the decline. I think it's a regime that could be starting to break down.
So they're going up. They're going down.
Possibly, we might meet in the middle. Let's see.
Boo!
What I don't like is playing the Dolphins away this early in the season because it's hot in Miami. I haven't seen a weather forecast for this weekend. Pats are going to be out in the sun. It's just as they don't like coming to New England in December, January, where it's freezing cold with snow. Pats don't like and don't fare well going away to the Dolphins early in the season. So that plays to the Dolphins' hand as well. They're going to be at home. They're going to be just like you, thinking we played awful last week, but don't worry, the Pats are bad as well. Look at them the past 2 seasons. Look, they've just done exactly the same at the start of the season. There's no great change there. They're going to be looking at it. We've got nothing to fear here. I think it's going to be a tight game. There's going to be one score between it. I don't think either side's going to blow out the other.
Okay.
I want to be positive and say a Pats win, but I've got a fear the Dolphins are going to win something like 23-20. I hope I'm wrong.
You're doing 23-20
to the Finns.
To the Finns.
Ooh. See, I looked at these first 4 games and thought those 4 are very winnable. Raiders, who were bad last year, same as you, we're at home, we're going to come out, new regime, firing, we're going to beat them. I thought Dolphins are going to be on the decline, tricky, but you've got a chance of beating them. Steelers, I thought Rodgers is shot. They're going to be nothing again. They're on the decline. This will be the first season that Tomlin doesn't go above 500. Yeah, we can get a win there. Panthers are barely an NFL franchise at the moment. We can beat them. But now after week 1,
they've only had week 1. I'm still saying that the Steelers are still not going to be above 500.
I hope you're right. Don't like them. We'll see.
It's the first game of the season for everybody, not just the Patriots. So, yeah. But that's just me trying to remain positive.
Shall we wrap it there, madam?
I think we must. So there you have it, folks. That is it for the game recap wrap and the look forward to episode of Pat's Procrastination, because now we're doing kind of like a midweek thing where we look back and we look forward, and I didn't need to explain that. But anyway, episode 67 in the bag, 2-year anniversary. Thank you to everybody that has watched, supported, listened, just had our backs these last 2 years. We really appreciate it, and thank you everybody for tuning in today. Tune in next time, and as always, go Pats.
LFG.